Welcome to the Dr. Disaster Daily Show, Space Pirates. I am the captain of the fandom's revenge, the ever-charming Dr. Disaster. And today, we're going to talk about the dire financial outlook of Disney. Sometimes, it's nice to know that the things you fight for really do make a difference. Sometimes, it's nice to pat yourself on the back and recognize a job well done. That's what I'm going to suggest that we all do. All of us who have fought declining Disney and their woke ideology for the last several years. Because something has happened. Disney and all these wokesters have been poisoning the air with their woke diarrhea, and people are finally starting to notice it.
My God, what is that smell? Oh, it smells like a used diaper filled with Indian food. Oh!
With companies like Bud Light and Target taking it in the pants recently, you can see how the tides have begun to turn in the culture war. But that's all recent. Disney, on the other hand, has taken blows to their company's stock prices and their bottom line for the better part of a decade now, because folks like us have been steadfast. We've been steadfast in our anger with this company. Now, the media circles the wagons to protect Disney, but this is true. They are reeling, and in a sane world, they would be viewed as a terrible investment by all. The company has made some truly stupid choices over the years, but I believe the company has been on the financial decline in earnest ever since The Last Jedi disappointed audiences everywhere and drove the Star Wars franchise into the ground. Everything revolves around that time period. Everything. That was the fulcrum, the center point from which everything else comes from. So really, in my opinion, Bob Iger can thank the likes of Kathleen Kennedy and Ruin Johnson for this little gift.
What is that? It smells like a turd covered in burnt hair.
We're going to look at an article in a moment which details the financial woes of Disney for the last several years, and we'll take a look at specifically the timing of the start of these woes, which is very interesting. Very interesting, because it coincides with the release of The Last Jedi and with the pissing off of the fans. You know, back when they made a movie that people disliked, so many of us, that really they should have apologized, but they couldn't be bothered to do that. They couldn't even be bothered to do nothing. All they could be bothered with is accusing us of being racists or whatever. And we're also going to look at evidence that perhaps Kathleen Kennedy and the big brains at Disney are searching for something, anything, that will make things right with the fans. So yeah, we're going to dive into some of the painful financial truths of Disney as a result of the last several years of mismanagement. But before we do, let me know in the comment section what you think was the reason for Disney's fall. What was the catalyst in your opinion? When was the moment that you realized that Disney and what it does smells like shit?
To be honest with you, that smells like pure gasoline.
They've done studies, 60% of the time, it works every time.
Okay, now, let's have a look at this article from Yahoo Finance. But before we do, a quick disclaimer: this article is a bit dry and is chock full of financial terminology. I'll do my best to parse through it all as quickly as I can so I can get to my point. In any event, the headline reads, Walt Disney stock falls 3.8% in past week as 3-year earnings and shareholder returns continue downward trend. As an investor, it's worth striving to ensure your overall portfolio beats the market average, but the risk of stock picking is that you will likely buy underperforming companies. Unfortunately, that's been the case for longer term the Walt Disney Company shareholders, since the share price is down 26% in the last 3 years, falling well short of the market return of around 40%. This means that while other companies have been making lots of money for people invested in them, if you have been invested in Disney, you've lost over a quarter of your investment in the past 3 years. Ouch, man. More recently, the share price has dropped a further 14% in a month. This could be related to the recent financial results. And here they're referring to the most recent shareholder meeting where Disney had to tell us all how poorly their boondoggle, Disney Plus, is performing, having lost millions of subscribers in the last quarter. After losing 3.8% this past week, it's worth investigating the company's fundamentals to see what we can infer from past performance. We're going to skip down a ways because it's just financial jargon and drivel, but after that, the article reads, "We know that Walt Disney has improved its bottom line lately, but is it going to grow revenue?" Yeah, now don't forget how it improved its bottom line, folks. The how is important. Disney has been laying off thousands of people this year in order to try to improve their bottom line. They've been firing people. When these shills in the media try to spin the company's performance in a positive light, never forget that a company who fires thousands of employees is not one that is thriving. And now hold on, because this paragraph here is where the article gets really interesting and you can see the point that I wanted to make. It says, Walt Disney shareholders are down 19% for the year, but the market itself is up 1%. That means that if you had $100 to invest in a company at the start of the year, then you could throw a dart at a list of potential investments, and chances are you would have hit a company that would have gained you $1 if you invested in them. But if you had purposely invested in Disney, you would have lost $19. The article continues. However, keep in mind that even the best stocks will sometimes underperform the market over a 12-month period. That is exactly the sort of language shills make, trying to be apologetic for their ideological comrades. It's funny, then, when they have to admit the following. Regrettably, last year's performance caps off a bad run, with the shareholders facing a total loss of 1.8% per year over 5 years. Generally speaking, long-term share price weakness can be a bad sign, though contrarian investors might want to research the stock in hope of a turnaround. There's a lot to unpack there, because the writer of this article is really trying to soften the blow by essentially suggesting you still give Disney a chance, but there's no escaping the truth. Long-time share price weakness is a really bad sign, and the last 5 years of Disney, starting in the year 2018, resulted in losses. Not coincidentally, that is literally right after The Last Jedi pissed us off and turned half the fan base against the company. Yes, the mainstream media has continued to sing Disney's praises, but many of us had our eyes opened that year, and many of us have been essentially boycotting these jackanapes ever since. Now, let's compare Disney to one of their contemporaries really quick in order to prove my point that these guys are a special case of fail. In the past 5 years, Disney is down in total 11.61% at the time of this recording, meaning that if you invested $100 in them 5 years ago, you would have lost damn near $12. Concurrently, their streaming rival Netflix is up over 9% in that same time frame, despite the massive stock drop-off they had early last year that cut their value at the time by around 2/3. That means that if you had invested $100 into Netflix 5 years ago, you would have made $9. Now, Disney is bleeding money and losing the faith of investors. For evidence that Kathleen Kennedy and her cronies are trying anything at all to bring the fans back, have a look quick at this article from Cosmic Book News. The headline says, Mark Hamill responds to Star Wars return. Kathleen Kennedy trying to make things right with the fans? Now, in this article, the main thrust of what they're trying to talk about is an interview with Mark Hamill where he basically says that he can't tell us whether or not Luke will reappear in Star Wars as a Force ghost in the announced Rey movie. He says he can't tell us, but the end of the article is interesting, and it got me thinking. Let's have a look. Lucasfilm president Kathleen Kennedy has said that the Rey movie takes place 15 years after the rise of Skywalker, with Daisy Ridley back as Rey rebuilding the Jedi Order. So it seems likely that if the Jedi Order gets rebuilt, that Rey would need some help. Mark Hamill and Hayden Christensen have never appeared on screen together, so if this all really does happen, we could see father and son reuniting, possibly along with other Force ghosts who could help. So maybe additional Force ghosts could include Yoda, Ewan McGregor back as Obi-Wan, Samuel L. Jackson back as Mace Windu, Liam Neeson back as Qui-Gon, etc. This is what's really interesting to me. There is even a rumor that Rey will team with Grogu, aka Baby Yoda, from The Mandalorian, so maybe Kennedy's plan is to sync everything up in an attempt to fix Star Wars and make things right with the fans. She's trying to take Rey, who was popular with the Reylo crowd, and trying to mishmash that character with Grogu, who a lot of us liked, at least for the first 2 seasons of The Mandalorian. They're desperately contemplating anything that might bring people back into the fold. They know they've lost us. And I think that's why they recently announced so many Star Wars movie projects. I think they're gauging what will bring interest back to Star Wars, because the greatest enemy to Disney is the weapon that I've been advocating we use for a long while. And that weapon is apathy.
I don't care.
Now, it's okay to bitch about Star Wars and how we hate everything they've done with it, but we have to continue not to watch it and deprive these vermin of our hard-earned dollars. The best thing about a weapon like apathy is that it doesn't cost you a damn thing to wield it. All you have to do, folks, is just turn off the TV and go do something else. Don't go to the movie theater, don't play their video games, and if you have to consume something Star Wars, buy it secondhand. Or, don't forget, after all, that we are space pirates.
Thanks for watching, me hearties. If you haven't already, your captain is inviting you to subscribe to the channel and become a part of the crew. Life as a space pirate may not be glamorous, but there's always plenty of booty.